that brings us to new shelter update. And what I want to do is go through fairly quickly a presentation that our architect and consultants presented to the commissioners about 2 weeks ago. Get this far enough away that I can see. Now this is your presentation. Oh, this is, yeah, okay, I'm jumping the gun.
No.
Shelter plan, no, y'all go ahead. Shelter plan, both of them are at the same time, so y'all go ahead and do that one. Excuse me.
Okay, so we brought up multiple times doing managed intake and what that might mean for our shelter and for the numbers and for the community. So we just put together a presentation on some of that information to share with everybody. So the purpose of a municipal shelter is to protect public health. So that means picking up sick or injured animals that might be a threat to the community. That includes rabies, anything that might be a threat to other animals in the area, spread of disease, as well as offering low-cost rabies vaccinations to reduce the risk of rabies in our community.
Hi, Justin. I'm here.
Excuse me. Carl's here.
Hi, Carl. Hi, Carl.
Hello, sorry I couldn't be there, but thank you for allowing me to join the conference call.
Thank you. We are discussing the managed intake plan the staff is presenting to us now. Thank you for being
Okay,
here.
thank you.
Another aspect of our role in the community is to protect public safety. So that's, containing vicious or dangerous animals, any nuisance animals. These are animals that can also be threats in the way of, running into traffic, causing traffic issues, anything like that, which would fall with the dogs running at large. To provide a safe haven to animals in extreme need. So this would be the animals that are cruelty cases, abuse, neglect, anything like that. We're a sanctuary for them to find help. And along with that, as we were just discussing, assisting and prosecuting abuse and neglect cases to the full extent of the law. And as many of you know, the law is a big part of that. Our animal control officers are working very hard in getting these animals into safety, but there are a lot of obstacles in the way of those cases going to court. And then we provide centralized housing and care for animals that are separated from their families, so that we can be able to provide those animals back to their families and keep them safe in the process. And it's still amazing to me that there's a lot of people in the community that don't even know we exist. So when people lose their animals, they're not coming to us. We need to be more vocal. Hey, come to us first, and we'll have resources to help you find your animals. If we don't have them, here are some other ideas. So that's a really big aspect of what we do, and I'm happy to hear that we had 63 return to owners this month. That's really good. That's one of our purposes, and I'm glad to hear that we're successful in a lot of those. So this is something I added to this presentation, the ins and outs. This is really, really important to understanding shelter function. This is kind of the numbers that you had just asked about, Bev. This doesn't include wildlife intake and owner request euthanasias, which I will say can be a part of the numbers in our system, because if animals are surrendered for euthanasia request without proof, we are required to hold them for 72 hours just in case the owner comes forward, since we don't have proof that they are the owner. Again, if it becomes a humane case where this animal is truly suffering, then I can make that call to euthanize. But normally we try to hold for the 72 just to see if someone comes forward, and you'll be amazed how many old decrepit animals come in, and people do come and find them. So we have a whole lot of animals that come in from all sorts of different situations. We have the field surrenders, we have owner surrenders, we have field strays, we have people who bring in strays over the counter. And then we have our confiscation and cruelty cases, our rabies observations, our owner requested euthanasias, and our field requested euthanasias. And again, going back to the owner requested, if we don't have proof, then we do actually have to hold them. So that would be considered in the shelter. And the field requested euthanasias, I want to clarify, are not done in the field. They are brought into the shelter. Same situation. If there's no proof, then we have to hold them. So Someone have a question?
So in the field means animal control.
Exactly, yes, yes, sorry. So what we want to talk about is looking at how to reduce some of this, because this is what we truly have an effect on. Return to owner, we can definitely do better on. Like I said, we can advertise, put out there, hey, come to us, here are some resources, this is how you can advertise to find your animal. So we can up those numbers. Adoption, we can definitely do some better marketing, especially for individual animals, animals who have been in our care for a while. We can improve upon that. Transfer, we're working on building those relationships, you know, making some connections with some of the northern states who are actually looking for animals. Someday we'll be there, guys. And then the euthanasia is always, always last resort. So that's one, we want that one to go down. We don't want that one to be one of our outcomes if at all possible. So what we can do in the inns is kind of what the managed intake discusses. You know, field surrenders, owner surrenders, those are all things that we can reduce. Field strays, with more education in the community on animal care, we can definitely bring that one down too. There's always going to be strays, animals that get out. My parents just called me, their English bulldog that I rescued from DC was running at large. I don't know, he doesn't even go up the stairs, so I'm not quite sure how running he was, but it happens. So we want to be the facility that can help reunite animals with their families. Confiscation, cruelty cases, we really want to get those down, but those are what we're here for. We are here to take care of these animals, to provide them the care that they may never have received before, and make sure that people don't think that this is okay. People are getting away with treating animals this way, and that's unacceptable, and we're allowing it. So that's something that we will always be open to those animals, but we want to get those numbers down and tell people it's not okay. Rabies observations, we do rabies observations. There is a fee associated with it. People can also do it in-home, and they can also do it at their veterinary clinic. So we want to make sure that we're communicating with people that their animal doesn't necessarily have to be in the shelter, because that animal's taking up a spot. They're going to come reclaim their animal in 10 days. Well, meanwhile, there's an animal that's sitting here for 10 days, getting stressed out and stressing out our overall population and resources. And then the owner requested euthanasia, and the field requested euthanasias. We want to really work on getting proof of ownership so that we don't have to hold on to these animals. I mean, can you think of a worse way than sitting your last 3 days of life in a shelter? That's pretty horrible. And then, is this where, yeah. I just want to point out with some of our numbers that Sarah had brought up, we had 776 animals come in the month of November. We had 377 that were stray that came in. We had 364 adoptions. So our adoptions don't even make up for the number of strays that came into our facility. So that's a big difference that we need to try to manage. So keys to reducing shelter population, like I kind of just went through on the last slide, reduce intake. Big part of this is going to be community outreach and education. Aggressive spay-neuter programs, reducing the overall population, reuniting lost pets with owners in the field. We discussed, you know, increasing those owner returns, encouraging alternatives to surrendering animals. This is a really, really important part of managed intake that we'll discuss a bit more. Organizing and managing flow of animals into the shelter. So making sure that the length of stay is short as possible, because we're on top of what every animal needs. They're going through the best possible routes for the best outcome. And reducing the length of stay is a huge part of that. Part of reducing length of stay is increasing our foot traffic, increasing the marketing of animals on the floor, and make timely evaluations to determine. So again, that all goes along with the organizing and managing the flow of animals. I did have a little thing that I had posted on here initially, but Libby and I discussed and decided to take it out. At every shelter conference I've ever gone to, there's something called the length of stay game. And there's a cute little cartoon on YouTube if you're interested in it, but it basically says holding an animal longer is not a good thing. That's when we're discussing our shelter options. You know, I am in favor of the 10-day length of stay proposal versus the 14, because holding on to animals longer just increases their stress and increases risk of illness. The more animals you have, the less adoptable every individual animal is. If you walk into a room with 200 dogs versus a room of 2 dogs, it's pretty overwhelming to see 200 animals, and lots of people are so discouraged and overwhelmed with that number that they just walk out and they don't see the individual animals there. They see this mass group of barking, flailing, furry beings rather than the individual animals that are there. So I would really love for us to put our resources into decreasing that length of stay rather than taking care of animals in our care.